For your information, I heard you speaking about Laura Palmer.
Yes?
One day my log will have something to say about this. My log saw something that night.
Really? What did it see?
And skin.
I'm your host, Justin Granson. With me, as always.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
What's up, Dan? How you doing?
Dan, you're supposed to segue. It's Dan.
Yeah, I know. I guess I usually do, but you know, everything's weird. I mean, you're not at home. You're you're tucked away somewhere, huh?
Yeah, I'm in Minnesota.
Ooh, up there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and because it's not cold enough down here. When are you coming home?
Nope. Yep, exactly.
Well, the polar vortex hits Monday, right? Sunday or Monday?
Yeah, it's supposed to be rough.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
It was -12 here on Tuesday.
Oh, well, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No disc golfing up there, huh?
You know what? I got them in my car.
It's a little cold,
and
man.
It's supposed to be like 40 on the way home tomorrow. I may stop somewhere.
Oh, it was 40, yeah. I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
if you check out that place not far from where you are, it's excellent. That's a great disc golf place.
What's it called?
Man, I'll tell you later. I'd have to look it up on my phone where I played it. I got it all in there.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. I got some stuff to talk about. Dan, you said you wanted to talk about something. Then we're going to get into some Skeleton Crew. But and Chuck, if you got anything else, chime in. But Dan, what did you want to talk about?
All right. Limeade Minute Maid from Noodles and Company. It's terrible. Don't ever get it. It's awful.
Okay, so it's a fountain drink. I see you got a fountain drink. Now, Do you know for sure if it's a good mix? I just want to make sure it's a good mix. You know, sometimes you get the bad mix and, you know, too much or whatever. I mean, but did you get too much syrup? Not enough water? I mean,
so I went to Noodles and Company, right? So they've got one of those things where you got to use like the touch screen and everything.
Yeah, okay.
It's awful. It tastes like green Jello.
Okay, I like green Jello.
But as a drink, like, you know, it's not like it's bad. It's just really bad.
I would like it a little bit. Like, I'd take a few sips and I'd be like, all right, I'm like Green River. I'll take a few sips. I'm good, but I can't drink that stuff.
This is like Green River, but bad green, like polluted Green River.
It's like the Chicago River.
Yep, it's the Chicago. They bottled the Chicago River at St. Patrick's Day and sold it as limeade.
Put it in there. All right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. I got one other. I got a good drink though. So last night we went to Surly, with Surly Brewery.
Okay.
And then after that we went to a distillery right next door called O'Shaughnessy. And oh my God, it was good. I'll send you some pictures.
Is that in St. Paul?
It's in I don't know. Yeah, it's St. Paul. Yeah, it's like down by the university.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know where that. I may have been there actually.
Yeah, Surly's a really well-known like brewery here, and so they built this huge distillery right next door, and it's called O'Shaughnessy's, and they make Keepers bourbon. Mm-hmm. And really, really good. Probably the best old-fashioned I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Yep. Wow. Yep. Just super smooth and
really
not too sweet, not too, bitter. The bitters were perfect. It's fantastic.
Called Keepers?
The bourbon was Keepers.
Yeah.
The place is O'Shaughnessy's. They have their own bourbon or whiskey coming. The stills are huge. They're like 40 feet tall, and they're barreling it next, like either this summer or next spring. So it was kind of cool. They were telling us about it.
Yeah, I'm going down to Kansas City to go to the Holiday Distillery there in a couple weeks, just to check it out because you know I like bourbon, so
it was really good. I should have bought a bottle and brought it back.
I'll tell you what, man. We went to there's a place out in DeKalb called Whiskey Acres, and they make their own bourbon out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought a bottle. Once a year, they release this stuff called Blue Pop.
Are you laughing at my eating?
Yeah, he's laughing at you eating. But anyway, they make this stuff called blue popcorn, which I imagine is this, the kernel of the corn is blue. And they sell out of it right away. So we went and got it. We went and got some, and I'm telling you, man, it might be the best bottle of bourbon I've ever had. But
would you brown bag it?
No, it's not. That's
a lot funnier if you're like watching than listening. So if we're on YouTube. If you just listen to this via Spotify or your favorite podcatcher, except for Amazon, I'm having some problems with Amazon. Just want to let everybody know. I don't know why I can't get it to work on there. It works on everything else. We're locked in and working everywhere. I've cleaned it all up. Still got some work to do with Amazon. But anyway, let's just get into this. Okay, so right before we got online, we're a mess today. I played a new board game called Root. And Dan, I think I've talked to you a little bit about it before. Chuck, I know when we first got on, I was mentioning it. This game is kind of cool. It's been out for a few years. The basic premise is it's a forest, and you're vying for control of the forest. You score 30 victory points, game's over. But the unique part about it is it's all the different factions. So the game comes with 4 different factions. It's the cats, the birds, the woodland creatures that aren't even anything except like what's on the map already, and then a vagabond who's like sort of like a role-playing game, single unit that moves around the map. Every single one of these factions plays by its own rules. So the entire so my wife is playing the cats, I'm playing the birds, my son's playing the woodland creatures. Everything plays by its different rules. The cats have map control in the beginning. They have sawmills where they cut wood. That wood then can build other buildings, and they just continue to build up an army. The birds are psychotic. They're in one area to start, but they have a lot of them, and they can spread out really fast. But you have to go by a decree. The decree is whatever the card's set up, you have to follow this decree. So if I have to recruit, move, fight, and build, I have to do all those things in the locations that it says I have to do them. Otherwise, I forfeit my turn completely, lose some victory points, and have to start over again. So they're very militant in how they act. The woodland creatures really don't have anything except sympathy. And you throw sympathy markers down, and after a while you then Dan, you good? You good, Dan? You're just like a biological hazard over there. All right. Okay. All right. Just burping and dying. Okay. Anyway, so you build sympathy up, and then you can riot in the places that already have other factions, and you overthrow everything there, and then kind of spread from there. So they act almost like a pandemic virus. And then if you're the rogue, you just kind of move around the board. You complete quests. You can gain favor with other players, trade cards, do things like that until you get your victory points. Kind of cool. Just wanted to throw it out there. Something very, very different. Also, probably one of the most complex games I've ever played.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Does it take a long time, though?
No, the game's actually rather short.
Oh, that's good.
The game's like an hour or less.
But maybe an hour. 4-player, though, right?
No, with the expansions, you can play up to 6, but I hear it's terrible with anything more than 4.
Oh, it sucks.
It just kind of bogs it down a little too much and too much going on. But I haven't tried it, so I can't confirm that. So
yeah, I also played a game this past break, and it was called
Citadel.
Citadel. That was it. Freaking closed the link. Anyway, it was called Citadel, and it's basically a card game. You have 9 different classes, and you're trying to buy castle cards, Citadel cards, basically. And so, at the beginning of every turn, you can play up to, I think, 8 You play up to 8 players, so it works. We played it with 4, and it was great. So, but basically, you shuffle all these classes together. One gets one gets discarded, one gets flipped, and so those 2 classes aren't in that round's deck. And then whoever's the starting person picks out what class he wants to play that round, or she, and then that goes around. So basically, every round you're playing a different class character, theoretically, and then those characters can do things like get additional monies or buy additional cards. So, and the idea is to, you win when you have like 7. Well, it depends on how many people are playing. But when you have a certain number of Citadel cards, game is over, and then those Citadel cards have, victory points on them. So even if you have, let's say it took 7 cards to win, if somebody has 5 cards or 6 cards and they have more victory points, they win. So it's still a victory point based game. But it's really interesting, and it's fun because you can play with more than 4 people.
That's what's nice. I like that. Yeah, getting a good 5 or 6 player game. Well, 5. A lot of games are up to 5. It's at 6. Yeah. It's always at 6. So if you have like 3 couples trying to play a game, it's like, looks like we're playing 7 Wonders. Looks like we're playing.
Exactly, we played 7 Wonders too much.
That or Lords of Waterdeep. And they're great games. I like them. You're limited.
Yeah, we play a lot of Lords. We play, Sushi Go, King of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We play Splendor, I think. I think Splendor's up to 6, right? I don't know.
Yeah. I have never played Splendor at 6. I've only stopped at 4. Yeah, that seems like crazy town.
Yeah, maybe we don't play it at 6. Maybe it's a 4-player or a 5-player. Anyway,
so I watched a couple shows this week that weren't Skeleton Crew. So I talked last week about Dune. Well, I went through and finished it. I'm like, I'm just going to finish it. It got renewed for a 2nd season, and I really liked it. Like, I didn't love it, but I'm in. Like, it's like I'm excited for the 2nd season now. To enough where there's some cool things that happen in the back half of it, and it was only 6 episodes. So it wasn't that deep of a dive, 6 episodes, and some of them are like an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, but not terrible as far as like investment, and the production values are so high on it, and it looks good. It's got really good acting. So like the slower pace at the beginning does have a pretty strong payoff at the end of the season. So I want to throw that one out there. I started Squid Game season 2, so I'm only like 3 eps in, and I like it. It's more Squid Game. What are you gonna do? I don't know. It's got the twist on it where he's back in, and so he knows what the games are. He knows he's trying to like save as many people as possible and break the game. So that's got that twist in it. So I like that. That's all I'm gonna say about it. How he gets there is also a little bit fun. There's some fun there. I think that's probably all I'm going to talk about there. What do you guys got before we get into Skeleton Crew?
You guys talked last week about shrinking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got it during the holiday and blew through it. Unreal. Yeah. Unreal good.
Really good, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't recommend that one enough. I did watch a few episodes of Landman. And Billy Bob Thornton's amazing. Like, he just is. Like,
yeah.
That show, but you know what? It didn't like grab me. It's like, well, it's interesting, but it didn't like quite grab me. I was like, I don't know if I really want to watch more of this,
So how many episodes did you get in?
3?
Yeah, so keep going. And the ending is really good of season 1. Like, it is way better. So I, for reference, I finished season 2 of Kingstown, Mayor of Kingstown. Mayor of Kingstown is like basically, it started off really strong and basically turned into Sons of Anarchy in Michigan or wherever the hell they are.
Is that the one with Hawkeye?
Yes, with Jeremy Renner.
Hawkeye.
Yep. Yeah, and it's got a couple good performances in there, but the story is so far out there. It's essentially just Sons of Anarchy, which it's still decent TV, but it's just kind of ridiculous now. Landman, by the end of the season, it's really got a totally kind of different tone than the beginning. Yeah, there's a little over the topness, but I like it finishes with less of the son. Like his son, kind of features heavily in the beginning of the season, and he's still there, but it's I'm not a big fan of his storyline, so I like the way it goes. Did you get to the fun Alley Larder scene?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or you don't know. Yeah, no, I think it's probably Taylor Sheridan's strongest stuff at the end of Landman season 1 there. So I liked it. I don't think I'm going to continue with Mayor of Kingstown, because there's season 3, I guess, that just came out and finished up. But I'm trying to think of what else did I watch. Oh, I got like 4 episodes into Interior Chinatown.
Oh, how do you like that?
It's fun, so I really want to see where they're gonna take it, because it is exactly what we talked about, what it sounded like it would be, and so far it's exactly that. So it's definitely worth watching. I want to see if it pays off at the end of the first season, but I'm enjoying it a lot.
I forgot about that. I completely forgot.
Yeah.
So that'll be one I'll have to pick up after I'm done with Squid Game and Silo. But then I've got Severance next week. So that's the one I'm really looking forward to. I don't know if I'm going to start catching it right away, because I want to finish up Silo first, and then I might actually go back and watch the last episode or 2 or Severance, because I was just watching the previews, and it's like the show just screws with your mind so much anyway, that it's like the early stuff that they're showing is already screwing with my mind. I'm like, I don't even remember where it's at. I just that intensity of the last episode, though, I want to bring it back and then go into the season. And I forget, you guys see either of you watch that yet?
We'll watch Severance. My wife and I have been talking about watching it.
Okay, it's a slow burn. Please be patient with it. It's worth it.
Okay.
Highly recommend. That's, I think that's at least pound for pound, one season, it might be my favorite Apple show, and that includes Shrinking and Ted Lasso. But it also has the potential to just completely fall out of that and not be it. Like it could, Ted Lasso and Shrinking are just like, they're going to be good. I have no doubt a 3rd season of Shrinking is going to be amazing. And I know they're doing it, and it's going to be a final season. Great. I have no doubt it's going to be good. Severance could absolutely fall off a cliff episode 1 or 2 for all I know. We'll see where it goes. It's that, like, it teeters, so we'll see. But yeah, Silo is the other one that I was watching. But we'll talk about that, I guess, probably when you guys catch up on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Silo, I'm gonna put Severance on my radar, and I gotta hit the treadmill a lot when I get back. I've been doing nothing but drink and eat all week up here. So I got to get something to watch out while I'm on the treadmill.
So that's what Squid Game is for me. I got like a break like during lunch. I try it. So I started this new thing to really. I love like gaming theory so much, and I need rewards for things that I do. I went and downloaded the Conqueror quests. Have you guys seen those? Okay, so let me look at my phone to make sure I'm getting the name of it right. But basically, I'm paying somebody for me to walk. It's called the Conqueror. Download an app on your phone, and the one that I picked was the first one I'm doing is the Shire. So they've got the Lord of the Rings license, and on the app, as I walk, it'll take my step data, drop it in there, and it follows the path of the hobbits.
Yeah.
When you reach a certain point, you get that thing, and they send you like a really nice medal and a bunch of stuff in the mail. So there's like a reward. I got a Star Wars one, I got a Tokyo one, and then it was buy 3 get 1 free. So I have some other Conqueror one too. So that's like my motivation to get on the treadmill every single day. And so far it's working. I've been in there every single day this week. And then so watch Squid Game. And then I got my little tracking showing where I'm in the Shire. And as you tap it along, it's like you see like, I just got out of Bag End. I'm not that far along. I'm like 6 miles out of Bag End right now.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's such a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean anything that gets people moving, I really like, and I'm all for gimmicks, and I like licensed IPs, that play along in the universe. So yeah, there's my fitness tip of the week, kids.
But also getting stuff in the mail is cool.
I love getting things in the mail. Yeah. Yeah, if you're a card collector of any sort, the absolute best thing is to order a whole bunch of cards, like cheap, like 25-cent cards, whatever, and like do them all separate. And then you just like slowly get trickles of like little packages every day. It's the best feeling ever.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah. It's like, anytime you see the Amazon truck, you're like, yeah, I got my thing. It's a light bulb. Can't wait.
The best, mailed thing I ever got, not the thing wasn't the best, but the best feeling I ever got was when I was a kid. I don't remember what the cereal was, but I won something in a box of cereal. And so I sent in for it, and the day I got it was awesome because it came in a box in the mail, and it was a life-size Optimus Prime Transformer. Yeah. And I want so in the cereal box it was like a card. It was like, hey, you won a Transformer, and you didn't know which one you were getting. So I mailed it in and I got it, and I remember it was like 2 months later, and it was pretty awesome when it finally came in. It was cool.
Do you still have it?
No. This was when I was still living in Skokie, as a kindergartner then.
Dang.
So it went through it would have gone through 3 states, and then my mom would have to have it. So she doesn't have it. So
that's crazy. I won. Topps baseball cards also had like the Topps sticker book or Panini sticker book. You get, and it's like every year they come out with a book, and you buy the little packs of stickers for the baseball players, and each team's got their own page. You find out which stickers you got, and you stick them in the book. You never seen that?
No. Not.
Oh, it's like they still sell them. They still sell them at like Target and Walmart and everything. At least they were as of like a year or two ago. Maybe now that Fanatics took over, they're not doing it anymore. But I don't know. Anyway, I opened up one of those and I got a whole case of Bazooka Joe bubblegum. And I was like, and I thought I got a case. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get so much gum. I'm like 2nd grade, 1st grade, something like that. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing anybody has ever won. We mailed it out. I might have waited until I don't know, it feels like it waited 70 years to get it. But finally in the mail, I got this box, and it was maybe 6 by 6, or 6 inches wide, 2 inches tall. It was just like a case that they'd put out on the. It had like I don't know, 12 packs of gum in it.
It was Bazooka Joe, so that's like the really, really hard gum.
No, that was the thing that surprised me. It wasn't. It was like Hubba Bubba. It was different. It wasn't like the Bazooka Joe that you'd get in the little wrapping things. It was a softer gum like Hubba Bubba. I never saw that type of gum in a store before. So
you didn't get the little comic around it?
Oh, each cube of gum in the pack, because it was just like, imagine Hubba Bubba with all the cubes. Each one had a comic on it.
Whoa.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So you get like 5 comics per pack or whatever, however many. Yeah, it was a lot lamer than I thought it was going to be, but hey, that's my claim to fame of winning.
Nice. All
right, hey, Skeleton Crew, right? Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got through another series of Star Wars. We've done it. We won. We beat the Nintendo tape. What are we going to do next? What do you guys think? Okay, thumbs up from Dan.
I liked it a lot, man.
You liked it a lot. All right.
Really interesting because I listened to your podcast this morning, where you two were talking about it, and like you're like, oh, I wonder if that big gun's gonna come in, and I wonder if that that owl lady's gonna be in this, and like I just watched the show, so I'm like, oh, let's see what they do exactly.
Yeah, we nailed that. I wasn't, it's just like the one thing I'm going to say about the show is it kind of did all the things it probably was supposed to do, but it also never like like obviously they telegraphed the things on the other Atten like planet that they had. It telegraphed those things that we're going to eventually go up in the tower. They're going to have a big gun. And those things, sure, but like how they went about most of the stuff throughout the show, I never really anticipated it, and I would think I was like wrong on most of the major beats. I expected to get a whole backstory on Jod. We get 3 sentences, which honestly was very satisfactory to me. They didn't have to redo a whole scene with Order 66. I got a character completely like that. 2-3 sentences right there, it gave me everything I needed to know about him. Force sensitive kid was with a Jedi who got killed by Order 66. Done. He doesn't like the world anymore. But that kind of leads me into my favorite part about the show. Like looking like if I'm going to say it as a whole, and I was going to say like the quality of the acting of the kids, which I thought was phenomenal, but but the character of Jod, I mean, not only did Jude Law nail it throughout the whole thing, but his character is so freaking good that I want that character in something else later on. I don't need another Skeleton Crew season, whatever. I would love to see that character carried on in some way, in some form, because it was so well developed, so well executed, had me thinking the entire time, is this a good guy or a bad guy? Where at the end, I mean, he's a bad guy, 100% bad guy, but he's not terrible.
Right. He's not evil.
Not evil. No. Yeah. He is more of like a chaotic evil, like bad, or I don't know, like
chaotic neutral.
I don't know. He couldn't. It's like, well, he's never going to pull the trigger on the kids. He's never going to kill any of those parents. He's never going to kill somebody who's good. If you're a pirate or a scumbag, he has no problem killing you.
Yeah. It's basically a Han Solo character in a way.
Han Solo with the redeeming story going, he's somebody beaten down. I mean, there's a few cues that happened in the last episode. Spoilers coming. He's visibly angry when KB crashes the ship. Yeah. He did not want that to happen. In fact, he says this didn't need to happen. None of this had to happen. So he's mad the whole time. There's the moment at the end also when the good guys, the rebellion comes, or the rebel, or not the Republic comes in with the X-wings and the B-wings. We got to talk about B-wings in a little bit, but they come in, and he also kind of, that's when he just decides, drop the gun, I'm done. But he also smiles. There's a bit where he cracks a little bit of a smile. And my reasoning that I think he did that is like, this is a guy who just before this is saying, there's no good in this galaxy. This galaxy sucks, and you got to do whatever it takes to survive. But he saw the good guys come. And the good guys came and saved the day for the people of this planet. And he's like, okay, maybe there are good. Maybe there is good. Which, like, is something you don't really see in a lot of characters. I thought it was just a really unique take on a bad guy. And I love that. So, I don't know. I don't know if you guys had thoughts on that or just, like, where else you want to take this. But that was my big takeaway on this last episode.
Yeah. It was the Willy Wonka ending.
Almost. Or it was the Long John Silver of, he gives up also. He doesn't really give up in the same way, but, the Treasure Island thing definitely comes back there, too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I was waiting for him to, like, surprise, I was a Jedi all along, and I was testing you. I was kind of waiting for that moment to happen. But yeah, no, I pretty much agree with everything, you said, like, most of your points. I really like the title of the show, and how they brought it back in. The really good guys, right? is just kind of like the perfect title for the show. I don't think I was left wanting Except I was waiting for like a end credit scene where he's sneaking off like Long John Silver in a space dinghy somewhere, you know. So I think I was kind of waiting for that, but other than that, nothing but good things about it. I didn't feel any cheese. There was no, I don't want to call it Scooby-Doo ending, but there was no rush to the ending at all. They didn't feel like, an hour long end show and the last, needed 30 more minutes to finish it right. I felt it was pretty much perfect in terms of length and the pacing of the final episode. So good job.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't much of a mystery box, it turns out, like what's the whole thing with that and what's going on there? Well, it was the mint, and it was behind a barrier. And I mean, I guess like the things that are takeaway is like, all right, the last thing that they heard about was Order 66, meaning they were still functioning through the end of the Republic before the Empire took over. But the Empire must have known about this place, so like, what's the whole story there?
Mm-hmm.
And there'll either be a million comic books or something. I'm sure it'll fill in the details for that. But that was like, I guess, the only question I had at the end of it. Like, what does that mean for the rest of it? But other than that, it was like I said, it was like I thought it was. We had the theories about AI, we had the theories, all these different things, and it was a pretty straightforward show when you look at it. Like, now that it's happened, and I have no problem with it. My wife had a very interesting take on it, though, that I definitely said that I was going to bring up on here. She's like, "This is not a happy ending, though." And I'm like, "No." Yeah. She's okay, Chuck. You know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I know where you're going.
Okay, so you got this planet where everybody is like literally way upper middle class in the Star Wars universe. The Star Wars universe, I agree with Jod. It sucks. It really sucks. Except for these people that live on AT-AT, and they got it pretty good. They got to deal with the droids, whatever, but they don't really respect them anyway, and they're not that big of a threat. They're not going to kill them. They're just going to stun them at worst. There's no like real threat of anything. And now their barrier's gone. Now they're part of the crappy Star Wars galaxy where anything can happen. Now they're going to probably be under protection of rebels, or the Republic, but you know how that goes. And now they're all part of the churning machine that is that. So she's like, that's terrible. That's the worst. The kid screwed everything up for everybody. And or they were awakened to the truth. I guess you could look at it that way too. That's what I said.
Freedom isn't free. I think is kind of like the
you could say it's kind of like an analogy to the Berlin Wall coming down, where they got perestroika, but at the same time, all the criminals took over, and life was almost harder for the general person post the wall, the Berlin Wall, than to pre the Berlin. So,
except you had the opportunity to leave.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And now these people have the opportunity to leave where they had no chance to do it. They couldn't even communicate outside of it. It was like, you're basically North Korea, but living well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the paradise that they're taught in their society. They're essentially prisoners of the nicest prison ever, right?
Yeah.
So there's no free will from outside of, hey, I'm not going to go to school today. You get told what you're going to be, when you're going to be it, and we don't. Yeah, we didn't see any old people there.
Yeah, it's like the way it's true. But at the same time, I'm like, there's probably like going to be a sequel. It's going to be like Logan's Run. At 30, they kill him all, or 40,
But Soylent Green.
Yeah. It's like a true dystopian thing there, actually. But, oh man, that totally threw me off of what I was going to say. It was like, it's like communism. Like, communism on paper is like, man, why don't we just do that? It works. But then, of course, it never can work. It's always corruption and it's not fair. But this is like communism working properly, where, where it's like everybody's got everything they need. Nobody's wanting for more, except for maybe freedom and adventure. But
right.
So there's that. But I mean, I don't know. It left me with a pretty good conversation with the family at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And the biggest argument actually in our family was my son and me arguing about whether the B-Wings were cool or not. My son was pissed about the B-Wing.
Why?
Because the way it fired its laser, it had the concentrated laser cannon. It's in Rebels. That's where they show that as the prototype. They actually had that in the Rebels show. But you never saw B-Wings do that in like live action or anything. And you never really saw B-Wings shoot anything except a video game. And they don't do that in the video game. And he was like, but they're bombers. They should like kind of fly in on the side and then just drop bombs as it goes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, they don't do that. And he's like, I hate him now. This is like my favorite chip, and I don't like him anymore. I had it in my mind as something cooler, and I'm like, I don't know. That I like the quad laser focus fire, blow everything up thing.
That's the whole problem with the expanded universe and all that stuff, is where like people like us who read all those books were like, oh man, we have all these stories that we loved in our heads and all these visions, and then they like erased it all, kind of, sort of. So, I mean, yeah, he's just experiencing that firsthand.
Not true, though. Not true. It still fits in within all the canon that's been there, because every single one of those guns are removable and can be repurposed for different types of attacks. Because you put ion cannon, phaser, photon, blah, 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 all that stuff. It all goes on there. Everything worked. He just wanted to see him do something different. It's all good.
I was like, oh, cool. As soon as they flew in, I was like, oh, cool, B-Wings.
I was like, B-Wings, yes! That was my favorite thing ever. That was...
Pisses me off more than anything is, it's the, on X-Wing, there was that fighter that you flew, what was it called? It was like it was like before the X-Wings.
The Z95 Headhunter. The Z95 Headhunter.
Why are those nowhere in the freaking shows?
I believe they are all over Rebels and Clone Wars. They've got some in there. Or similar. I think the Headhunters for sure are in Rebels.
Okay.
They're still part of the lore. Like in the TCG, the card game I'm playing, Headhunters are one of the cards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Headhunters are a thing. They're garbage. Cool. They're garbage.
No, I know, but I just want to see one in
the live action.
Yeah,
so it would have to be like in the Rebels era. So possibly Andor. Maybe we can get one in Andor. It'd be like the perfect spot to put a Headhunter in.
You guys did talk about it just a little bit, where they spent like $600 million for the second season.
No. That's both seasons combined. Both seasons combined. It's the most expensive thing they've done, though.
When I heard that number, I was like, "There's no way. That's like 3 movies."
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is 12 episodes, so it is 3 movies. It's 4 movies.
Yeah.
Good.
That makes sense then.
When people are like, "Oh my god," I'm like, "Good. Spend more. Make it good. Make it go crazy. I don't care. Like, I don't care how much they spend. I don't care if they spend $50 million. Just make it good. It could be $50 million. It could be $800 billion. Whatever. Like, I don't get.
Here's the only thing with this show that concerns me is that I'd heard rumors, and I don't know if any of these are true, but I'd heard some people talking about like nobody watched Skeleton Crew. And
nobody watched it.
It was so good.
The ratings are low, but I think this is one that's going to come back around and get a lot of views after the fact.
Well, they've already said they're going to use some of the characters and other things also.
Yeah.
So they could build off that. The whole thing was done in the volume. It wasn't that expensive to make comparably. So they could churn out that stuff, and it is Disney. Thing is, Disney's got to realize, hey, plant seeds. That's a seed planting show right there.
Yeah.
And not get cold feet with these things.
They didn't have a lot of toys. Like, there was no stupid pocket droid that I was like, oh, that's going to be a toy. Like, there's maybe a couple of things I was like, oh, that'd be cool.
They had the owl.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there was nothing really stupid like that. I don't know. I really hate that pocket droid thing, but anyway. A BB-8. You know, what's wrong with just another, R2 unit? Like, come on.
Wait. Do you like BB-8?
I mean, I like them enough.
What about B2 Emo?
What's B2 Emo?
It is the droid from Andor. It's B2 EMO.
Oh, that red thing?
Yeah.
Love B2 Emo. Love.
Dumb.
Love. Are you kidding me? It's an old ass droid, like before the astromechs.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
That is like Knights of the Old.
It's fine, but I don't think it's like. Well, I'm not like, ooh, he's cool, you know. What about the IRAT?
Oh yeah,
you had the IRAT. You did have an IRAT.
Cool.
And he was saved at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
KB falling out of the ship with all the credits.
Yeah.
Hysterical.
It's the money shot.
It was totally like I was like, "There's a slot machine win right there."
Yeah.
But you know what was cool was what was the most valuable thing to those kids? It was their friend, not the money. None of them have any of the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they never needed the money. It was never. Yeah, it wasn't like
They
a
were
thing.
driven by greed.
Yeah. No, it was good. And like I tell you, like I said before, the character, those actors, those kids, have some of the best acting for kids I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it is next level. I never expect that good of acting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so like you saw Super 8, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's on par with that, and I think on par with Stranger Things when they were.
Yeah, Stranger Things got really good kids when they were young. They were great. That first season, great kid actors. E.T. It's like we've had good kid actors before, but
way better than the two kids in what's that crap show? I blocked the name out of my Acolyte.
Yeah. I knew where you were going.
Way better than those.
So there's a thing. I'm going to agree that it's better acting than the kids in Acolyte for sure. Yeah. One of the theories on why, like, because Acolyte had way more viewers than Skeleton Crew throughout its whole thing.
It had more lightsabers.
It had more haters. And one of the theories was that the hate watching.
Yeah.
There's your fandom right there. Hate watching theoretically might be one of the reasons that Acolyte performed more. And I'm going to stand by. I still like Acolyte, so screw you guys. So I want more of that. It doesn't have to be Acolyte. If you get the Stranger in another show, are you happy about that?
The Stranger.
Great character. Very good character.
Would you want to see more of that? Would you want to see that in like the continuation of Darth Plagueis? Would you want to see like that connection with Darth Plagueis and how like the Sith continue into Palpatine?
I don't care at all about the history and connecting those dots.
Okay, I do.
That's not important because I think Acolyte is a perfect example of if you and the rest of like the last three movies, if you lose the forest for the trees, right, or rather you lose the trees for the forest, you're gonna miss the mark. And I think Acolyte missed it. I think the last three movies, while I enjoyed them, you're trying to tell a story that people already kind of understand where it's going to go. Trying to hit the mark is really hard. And I don't think Star Wars can pull it off right now. I think we've talked about this, and I think I've kept to this theme, diving into new content within the environment, less focus on Jedi as the centerpiece of less focus on the Jedi, less focus on the Sith, and all of the things you already know. They should be bit parts in whatever story you tell, and not the focus of the story. That's how you make a good, compelling story.
I think that is. I think whether they use Jedi or not it doesn't matter, because you could do all those things no matter what. I think when you say that you break away from what is already known, I mean, we've already agreed on this show that Andor is probably the highest quality content Star Wars has put out. It is also building up to something we already know that's going to happen. They're going to build up to a rebellion, which is going to lead into Rogue One, which is going to lead into Episode 4.
But it's really hard to pull off, right?
Star Wars historically has not been able to do this because even George Lucas couldn't do it. Look at the prequels.
Yeah. It's really hard to pull off. They did it with Rogue One and Andor because of the style of material they did. They didn't do it anything like anything they'd ever done before, right? Even Empire is not as gritty and dark as
but gritty and dark is but saying because it's gritty and dark is complete BS because Skeleton Crew is not dark and gritty.
I didn't say it was.
I didn't say it was. But you're saying it went different.
No, I'm saying so. You're saying so. I said that your best bet is to tell stories outside of what people already know. The story of Rogue One, people didn't know that story. Yeah, you know where it went, but they didn't know the story. They knew a lot of Bothans died to get this data, right? And they took that idea and made something.
That's Return of the Jedi.
Hold on. Let me finish.
No, you're wrong. That's Return of the Jedi. The Bothans were Return of the Jedi. Death Star 2. Let's go back to Death Star 1. No Bothans. Go ahead.
All right, whatever. Still, it doesn't. They took an idea of, hey, we got the Death Star plans. This is how we got them. And they didn't do it in the same way of telling the stories that they had already told, right? They took it and they, a lot of people call Rogue One Saving Private Ryan and Star Wars or whatever, but they took that style of storytelling and used it within the content that they already had. Skeleton Crew is telling a totally different story within Star Wars. There's really no direct connection to the epic storyline of the Skywalker family or the Jedi directly. I know there's the hint of Jedi and Jod, right? And the fact that he's not a Jedi is probably the best thing they could have done with it. And I think that's the best opportunity for them to tell stories that are good and do a good job and not worry about getting caught up in the bullshit mysticism, and which is what killed, along with the way they executed Acolyte for me.
I don't see that any different than telling a story about the Sith. I don't. Well, you're telling me like, oh, how did they do this? We don't know the story about how Rogue One came up, like how they got the Death Star plans. We don't know the story of really how the Sith work. We know bits of it. They know the rule of two, but we don't know. We still haven't had a Sith in the Acolyte, except a hint of Plagueis. There was no Sith. So telling the story. So ignore Acolyte. Ignore Acolyte. Pretend it never happened. You can tell a story about the Sith back thousands of years before the Jedi or before Star Wars, before Episode 1, and tell an interesting story. Yes, you absolutely can.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because online and on our show, we did nothing but argue. Is this canon? That's not canon. Who's this guy? He's Darth Plagueis. He's not Darth Plagueis. He's that guy. Ooh, this character from this obscure show and this obscure cartoon. They get dissected because people think they know because these characters have already been put together in other stories. Tell something new.
You know what those are called?
Use elements of the
There's a name for that.
Tell something new.
Those are called glupshittos.
It's called bullshit.
Nope, they're called
crappy storytelling.
Glupshitto. A glupshitto in a Star Wars universe thing would be Ki-Adi-Mundi in the Acolyte is a glupshitto. Okay?
Yeah.
Where you're going to have people get mad that a certain character's in that show or happy that a certain character's in there, but it's put in there for a fan service reason. When you look at Rogue One and you look at the Andor, you have the glupshittos in there would be like certain types of stormtroopers, like if they throw a death trooper in there for the next season, certain things like that not necessarily, or if you throw in like Walrus Man or Dr. Evazan, one of those characters ends up in Andor season 2, that becomes a glupshitto.
I think the whole show was a glupshitto or whatever you call it. I
don't think you understand what I'm talking about then.
No, I understand perfectly what you're talking about, and I think the whole show is that because it's. I mean, the whole thing. It's just call the show Jedi, right? Or call it Sith. It's like that's what they tried to channel from minute one on that show, is just tap into people's, gusto for childhood lightsaber battles, and they did it bad. They told the story bad in Acolyte. It was not good. Right?
But to dismiss the fact that you can or cannot make an entire show about Sith, or do a story about Sith, a movie about this, or another Jedi movie, and say it never would work, is, I think, preposterous. I think that's so. That's just not really like.
I think without rebooting the whole thing, you're going to have no chance to really pull it off and do a good job. I just don't see you're capable of doing it.
See, here's the thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think you could do it. I mean, you could, especially like, look at the Knights of the Old Republic game. Like, that takes place like 2,000 years or 1,000 years before, 2,000 years, something like that. And it's awesome. It's freaking so good.
It's not a TV show, right?
Why can't you make a TV show out of that, though?
But like, let's say you took, what was Lucas's outline for the 8, 9, and was it 8, 9, and 10, or 7, 8, 9?
7, 8, 9.
Yeah. So
it would be closer to what you see in probably Ahsoka.
But wasn't it supposed to take place like 1,000 years later, where like C-3PO and R2-D2 were like telling the story about it, because like they brought balance to the Force, right? So there should be a golden age of peace, and then the future, you don't know, right? You don't know what takes place, 1,000 years later. Like, you could have started 1,000 years later and done anything.
You could start 50 years later and do anything. You could start anytime. I mean, you've got the perfect platform with Ahsoka right now to completely do something different.
Options for like, hey, we're going to bring balance to the Force, and then just 10 years later, we're going to need to do it again. I don't know.
But that's the beauty of where the story of the Wills was. I mean, I criticized the prequels, 10 minutes ago, but the one thing that the prequels does amazing is to not bow to expectations and do its own thing.
Yeah.
And episode 1 is pure. It's completely pure and does its own thing. It doesn't care what you think about the rest of Star Wars. It says, no, this is also Star Wars, and it is unique. Good or bad, it is its own freaking thing. The story
when it came out, though, there wasn't, other than, hey, we're going to tell the story of Anakin, right? It doesn't. There wasn't that before that, right? That when the canon, whatever. What was it called? The legacy stuff. And that when they separated it, was that before or after those 3 movies?
No, they separated that stuff when Disney bought it. So, okay. but Lucas never allowed anything to be done for that whole era. So he said, like, everything was off limits, except they could do Knights of the Old Republic because it was thousands of years before, and then you could do stuff after Return of the Jedi up to a certain point, and that's the only place they could really play in.
Yeah, which is the right way to go. Right? I mean, I think that proves my point, right? Even Lucas said the same thing. Stay out of the stories that have already been told.
But what you're saying is not what I'm saying, though.
I'm saying stay out of the stories that have already been told, because for 2 reasons. One, because you can never live up to the expectations of the fans of the stories that have been told. And 2, your best opportunity for telling a good story is new material.
Okay, that's such a blanket statement. I can't disagree with that, of course, yes. But
no, because I'm right.
well, you're right in that, yeah, duh. But you're also at the same time, you did say, like, no, you can't make a Jedi thing ever. You can't make a Sith thing ever. You can't do lightsabers. You can't do any of that stuff. It's like, yeah, you can. And it's just like...
The problem now, and I'm saying that was right for the prequels. The problem now is you have so much material, from books to comics to TV shows, right? Cartoons. that cover all of that in many ways now. So it's going to be really, really hard to pull it off. I think the further you go back with the least amount of material, the better chance you have to do it. And what they failed at in Acolyte, besides how they told that story, was trying to keep coming back to the fan service as a forefront of the story, right? Make it about, make the fan service a little thing that you catch.
So what was the big fan service then, other than you have Yoda at the end, and then you have lightsabers? What's the other fan service? Ki-Adi-Mundi?
No,
what would you call fan service in there?
It's a shitty Jedi story, and it's
no. But that's not shitty Jedi story. Is not fan service.
Jedi itself is fan service. Okay,
Jedi is Star Wars.
No,
Jedi is Star Wars. It's the Force. No. The Force is without the Star Wars universe. You take the Force out of the Star Wars universe. You don't have the Star Wars universe. You just have the Expanse. What does it matter at that point?
Okay.
That's what separates Star Wars and the Force. Are so intertwined, like that universe that even Rogue One talks about it. You have not had one thing in Star Wars that hasn't touched upon a Jedi or the Force in any way, shape, or form. Everything has.
Solo?
Solo?
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Okay, let me think about it. Okay, it might be the only one. And
not much in Andor either, right?
Sure, you've got a ship that's got lightsabers off the side of it, but whatever. And they do say, "May the Force be with you" throughout. So, and then he's going to meet up with Sharut, who is one of the wills of the Force. So, and the planet Jeddah, where everything happens in Rogue One. So it's all there. And I just got to think about Solo real quick.
That
might be the only single one, and it's also not one of the more well-received things. I really like it, but it's also not well-received. But separating Star and it's also the character of Han Solo who meets up with Luke Skywalker. So you're not removed from that universe still.
When people go to see a Star Wars thing and they see a lightsaber light up, they lose their fucking mind because it's a lightsaber and because it's the Jedi. And that's where the substance goes to shit.
I think that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, that'd be like saying where a sword comes out.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, like, transporters in Star Trek, man. It's so stupid. They got to do something without transporters.
I just do something without the fucking Klingons and the Romulans in Star Trek, right? How about we leave it there, right? Everything. It's more of, hey, you've beaten the Jedi versus the Sith as the forefront of your story to death at this point. Give me something that within there where that stuff can be on the periphery and not the focus of the story, because nobody seems to be able to tell a good story using it.
The Skywalker story, Dan, that's what you mean to say.
No.
It's the Skywalker story that needs to be left alone, and I would agree with you 1,000,000%.
No,
it's not like the idea of the Force or Jedi, because you could go 1,000 years into the future, tell the whole new story, and have Force wielding people in it.
It's like
change how Jedi are. I mean, we'll do something. You know, we could do.
Who's the most boring superhero?
Spider-Man?
No. Wait for Justin to say it because he knows who it is.
Okay,
it's Superman, right?
Superman, okay.
Yeah, so the Jedi and the Sith are just a bunch of Supermans running around in the universe, right? It's a boring story for the most part, especially because people can't tell it right.
Superman is boring because he's infallible and invincible, right? With one singular weakness.
Where he's not, though, right?
Because they have to continually figure out ways to do it. The best Superman stories are always the one that bring him back to humanity. That are human driven, and his struggle to be more human. That's what makes
that's what the good part of Acolyte was supposed to be, and they screwed it up and they didn't do it.
No, I think the good part of Acolyte is showing the downfall of somebody who is supposed to be a Jedi and the turn to the dark side, which they accomplished quite well in that show. They do it better than Anakin does. They do it better than Anakin's fall.
The last episode and a half was a banger, but the rest of the show sucked. And I'm telling you, I think Star Wars shows. Sorry, the limeade is like trying to make its way out right now. I think Star Wars is way more interesting when that stuff is on the periphery, because people trying to tell a story in there have more free reign. They have more ability to tell an interesting story about people who live within this but aren't at the forefront of this thing that's going on around, the Force and Jedi and Sith and the Empire and the Rebels. And I think Skeleton Crew showed how that could be and nailed it. And I think it's way easier to do it in a show like Skeleton Crew than in a show like Acolyte to pull off a story in that universe.
Yes, I agree with you, Dan, but the problem is, how do you get the fans excited? Like, I always thought, hey, it'd be cool, how like Coruscant had all these different levels, right? And then like in the lower levels, they were like forgotten levels, and all the like criminals and stuff lived down there.
That was the last premise of the last show that was actually filmed before Lucas sold.
Really?
It's called Level 1313, I think, and it's
I remember that.
Or 1300 or something, and they actually have footage of that show that was filmed and shown to people to sell it, and it was around that time though that they just went and sold to Disney and then scrapped that show.
Well,
I don't know what the answer to your question is, Chuck, right? Because I mean, ultimately, that's a marketing issue and not a storytelling issue.
No, exactly. True. But the problem is, where are they going to put their budget? You want something that ties to Luke Skywalker. Well, Luke Skywalker's a known entity, but if you have something that, oh, hey, this is just a criminal organization or whatever, just living in the inner workings of Coruscant or whatever. That's a Star Wars story. That's a story happening in the Star Wars universe, but it doesn't tie into existing property that they can measure. Like, they can quote unquote measure and say, well, people like Luke Skywalker, people like Darth Vader, So, and I think that's where you get some of that, maybe. I think this show, Skeleton Crew, proves that they can tell those stories, and maybe that will open things up. But I'm not 100% certain that it will.
I think they have trashed so much in the movies and in the shows in the last few years that they have to rebuild it. And maybe if people flock back to the Mandalorian, and Andor's coming next, right? So if Mandalorian does really well, because nothing does better than a fucking Baby Yoda, right? Maybe people will circle back around and see this and see that it's a great show within the universe.
I think that I hope we'll see an increase in viewership on Andor, but I'm not going to make predictions for the Grogu and Mando movie.
It'll do fine. It'll absolutely do fine. 100% will do fine. Where I disagree is, I think you could absolutely have a great movie in the High Republic, without a doubt, or television show. You could absolutely take something from that time frame, make a great story out of it.
What I'm saying is, if you go to the High Republic and you make it all about the epic, whatever the epic backstory is that everybody already knows about for it, you have to nail it or it sucks. It's an all or nothing thing there.
What was the epic backstory?
I don't know. I don't follow all that shit.
Yeah, there wasn't. That wasn't like built off of any epic backstory.
Yeah, I'm just saying, right? You either have to hit it with the like in the vein of the original Star Wars, or it's not going to do well enough, right?
So it can be done.
No, I said it is. I said it's almost impossible to pull it off at this point. I don't think it will be done. I don't think they will do a good job trying to do it. you gotta pull it off the way Peter Jackson pulled off Lord of the Rings.
Peter
Right?
Jackson also did The Hobbit.
So I have no problem with The Hobbit. I have no problem.
I mean,
It's fine. I enjoy him.
fine.
Really?
No problem with it. Yeah.
Yeah, who hates
Yeah.
The Hobbit?
I like The Hobbit.
The Hobbit's terrible.
It's not terrible.
Freaking terrible.
You throw
The book's
terrible
awesome.
out there way too cavalier, man.
No, the Hobbit trilogy is terrible. Like,
It's not
hands
terrible.
down terrible.
No, it isn't. No, it
Awful. Like, unwatchably slow and terrible. With
Slow.
Lord of the Rings is
It's
absolutely next level great.
So what's below terrible if that's terrible? Because so if that's terrible, where in comparison to the Hobbit trilogy, where is the latest trilogy from Star Wars? How do you describe that one? Because I know you hate that, like with all of your might, except
Well, I'm gonna put.
Yeah.
It's like on par with it. Yeah. It
No
really
way.
is. It is.
No
yeah.
way.
Like-
You're nuts, man.
Yeah.
What do you been
You think
smoking?
Hobbit is terrible. Hobbit's
Okay.
awful. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, can we do a podcast on how I hate The Hobbit?
We'll watch it right now.
Have you watched all 3 movies, Chuck?
I watched the first 2. Yeah.
Yeah, you watched the first 2, and you're like, we're gonna slog through another 3 hours.
I mean, I'll go watch it right now. Whatever.
It's a 200-page book that we're gonna make a 13-hour movie out of.
I mean,
Okay.
You'd have to nail it, but you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
You could do what?
Take
Watch
200
it?
pages, make a 13-hour movie out of it.
Anyway, Hobbit's terrible.
Real quick, let's just switch some gears real quick. I just
Okay.
want to talk about something I don't listen to regularly, but I caught this week and I thought it was interesting, and some of our fans may be interested in it. I don't know if you guys ever watched a show by the name of The Deadliest Catch. Did you guys ever watch that show?
I've been on one of the boats.
Oh shit!
in
Really?
Alaska. Yeah, the season 2 boat or season 3.
I don't. Oh man, I don't. I was just up there and I didn't see any of that stuff. That's
Yeah.
well, anyway. It just popped up on YouTube the other day. I was at work and I just turned it on and listened to it while I was working. But it was the latest episode of Mike Rowe's podcast, which I didn't even know he had a podcast. But he has a podcast, and he had.
Everyone's got one.
He had.
It's like there should be rules about who gets to have one.
Do we get one? Are we allowed to have one?
No rules, no rules. But anyway, yeah, he had on like one of the cameramen from the very first season, and it was just really interesting to hear, like, first of all, like how this guy got his job, and like that whole first season, and when they realized, because they had no idea what they were filming, they had no idea what was this, like a reality show? What was it going to be? And then he talks about how like one of the boats sank and they realized, oh shit, this is like real life. And like he even like broke down during the podcast telling the story of, see, Mike Rowe was only there for like 2 weeks. They filmed some stuff with him and then he just went back and became a narrator. But this guy was up there and he lived through some crazy stuff. Like he should not be alive. That kind of stuff. And it's just really cool. It was a really interesting story. And, the show is still on, which
Is it really?
Yeah, I watched the first seasons of it. I can't believe it's still on. I mean, I look at it and I go, there's no way in hell I would do that show, man.
At this point, most of that show has to be scripted.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I would agree because they're not going to risk as much and they're going to set stuff up and they got it all going. I will say though, like the boat I was on, they would talk about, they were showing like the season. You could buy, of course, that season on DVD there and everything, but they outfitted the boat so it had a stage on one side of it and they had to like counterbalance it on the other side. It was a really, really cool tour, to be on that boat, and they were like cutting up fish, throwing out there. The eagles were coming down and grabbing the fish, and they just went through how they would do all the fishing. And they caught an octopus accidentally when we were there, and that was my favorite part, maybe of the entire vacation, because when they pulled the cage up, because they go in there and eat the crabs because they can punch through and with their little beak they got. Anyway, pull the octopus out of the out of the cage, and they're all wearing like rain gear, and the thing like wrapped around them, and so the guy would like pull the octopus off of them, and it would go. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I didn't know. Like, you think about like what would it sound like, but it actually was a little suction cup.
Yep.
As it popped off. So good. It made me so happy.
Oh. On that vein, check out the video if you can that's going around of the Japanese divers that caught video of the giant squid.
Oh, really?
Freaking amazing. The thing
Okay,
is
I'll have to check
huge.
that out. That's scary.
It looks so fake because it is so real.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, I'll look that up after we're done here. Which, I don't know, we're about that time. You guys got any more Acolyte hate while we're here? I can talk Hobbit hate if you want.
No more Acolyte. No more.
Done?
No.
All right. All right. Let's.
Real quick, I want to just bring up. I got back into Minecraft over the Christmas break. Yeah. No, what? Don't make that face.
It's fine.
Awesome.
Hey, I'm not gonna yuck you yum, man. You like it? Go for it.
Yeah,
Nerd.
we set up a server with some cool mods. Like the kids set it all up. Like they wanted to come home from college and like, oh, we're gonna set up the server. We're gonna have all these mods. We're gonna have like, so they can just burn through some of it real quick. And then so I'm like, I'll just jump on and see what they did. What they set up. And then I was like, oh, that's cool. Hanging on it way too much.
Diablo new season next week, man. Diablo 4 new season next Tuesday, I think.
Are they bringing out any new characters or classes or anything?
No.
It's like Season of Witchcraft or something. So there's some new mechanics coming out. They're kind of. It looks like they're just going to keep kind of hitting them like Diablo 3 seasons for the most part, unless they're adding an expansion, which we're well away from an expansion right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's probably 2 years till an expansion.
Yeah, I got a buddy of mine. He can't right now. They took him off his epilepsy drugs, so he he can't like drive or anything. So he's been like hanging out at home, and I've been telling him like, dude, you should just like pick up Steam and like get a couple free games and play them. Just because he doesn't. Because sometimes he'll be sitting there and have nothing to do. And I'm like, well, it's something. So no, I don't want to get addicted to video games. Like, you're not going to get addicted to video games.
Yeah, you should be careful.
Says the Minecraft guy.
Video games are from the devil, man.
Yeah, where's my Diet Dr. Pepper, by the way? You were talking about that machine. I'm like, I always get the Diet Dr. Pepper with a little bit of cherry. So good.
I would do the Coke Zero with the raspberry. And now it's gone. They don't have it anymore. No more raspberry on all the machines.
I do not like any of the Coke Zero, the Pepsi Zero, or whatever. Like, I prefer aspartame, I guess.
It's in the Coke Zero now.
It's got aspartame. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were actually just talking about this week. Man, we're going on tangent right before we finish. We were talking about it at work this week. And Coke Zero, when it first came out, had a different sweetener in it. And that was the difference between Diet Coke and Coke Zero.
Right.
Remember when they pulled Coke Zero back from like everywhere because it wasn't selling well or whatever? They put it on the same sweetener as Diet Coke, and they just changed the formula to taste more like regular Coke. So I prefer the taste of Coke Zero by far over Diet Coke, but it is aspartame.
Yep.
Man, I don't know. I like Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to drink any of it.
Because like if I drink a 7-Up, like a straight 7-Up, it's so sweet I can't stand it.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. If I drink a lime Jello drink, I just want to puke.
Sierra Mist with the lime.
Throw it away, Dan. Just throw it away. Oh, what are you doing?
Pour it out into I got a clear cup here so you can see how green it is. It's
all right. We'll wait another minute. We'll close with this.
Our fans hate it when we don't.
Hotel wrapped cups.
Nice. Yeah. While Dan's doing this, click subscribe.
Can we get some? Green soda music?
Yeah, we'll start the music right now. We'll start maybe a different music. That is green.
It's green.
That looks like Ecto Cooler.
Yeah.
I need some rum or something in it.
That might help. That might help. Chug it. Why don't you just chug that whole thing for the podcast?
I'm gonna puke if I spew it everywhere.
Oh, please don't.
That has to be the thumbnail.
We got it. We'll do
video.
a clip, and
I don't think you should chug it.
I think you should. I think you should. You're a grown man. You can handle it. Look at that. No problem. It's not even that bad. It's not that bad. Suck it up, baby.
You drink that stuff for colonoscopies, and I can guarantee that's way worse.
I screwed up. There was ice in it.
All right. What was I saying? Like, subscribe. What else? What else? Catch us on Spotify, YouTube, most pod things. Been trying to figure out the Amazon thing, and we'll catch you next week. I don't know. Do we want to do Andor next week? Are we gonna do? How do we want to do Andor? We could do one episode a week for however many weeks. If we miss episodes, though, it could screw us up, and then we're all backed up. Or we could just like hit it hard with like 2 episodes a week.
2 episodes a week,
and just hit
We're
it
gonna
hard.
cover 2 episodes a week. I'm probably gonna watch it all and then just talk about it. Is that easier?
I'm gonna watch them and then talk about them and then watch. Yeah.
Okay. 2 episodes a week. Episode 1 and 2 of Andor next week as we prepare for Andor season 2 and whatever other hijinks we get into.
Cool.
Dan's gonna find a new liquid to mess himself up with. Dan, it's like either you're getting roofied on some episodes, you're drinking stuff like that. You know, I mean, stay away from liquids.
Hey, I poured it myself. I have no one to blame but me for choosing limeade.
All right, everybody, have a good one.
See you guys later.
Bye.